Good morning and welcome to the Sports Carnival, broadcasting live from the Trauma Center studios. Is it just me, or did Aaron Rodgers look the best he has all year this week? Now, here's your host, Dave Carney.
Yeah, Chad, I don't think that was just you. As a matter of fact, Aaron Rodgers looked fantastic this weekend. Caught a picture of him staying at a Holiday Inn. He might not be a doctor, but he smart stayed at a Holiday Inn last night. How the fuck you doing today here on this this bright and early Monday morning in both Western Wisconsin and Eastern Washington State? What you feeling like? How you doing, big guy?
Just a little tired. Been shoveling a lot of snow. It's been a lot of snow in this region, and then we had freezing rain yesterday, so it's been fun.
Okay, so you got what we call out here in Wisconsin a wintry mix, and we like that stuff. We like wintry mixes. Well, we do it for Joe at Helping Hands Landscaping, right? Because all that snow removal, well, that's where he comes into play if you're in La Crosse or on Alaska, which is actually, Chad, where I'm going to be moving. I'm going to be moving into La Crosse, Wisconsin. Big weekend here. Friend of the program, official real estate agent of the show, Kyle Cable, One Trust Real Estate, needed just 2 days active on the market, Chad, for him to sell my home for over asking price. So a lot of you have been reaching out on my Facebook page, and thank you so much. I see that Jim Namath is reaching out this morning. Congrats on the home sale, Dave. Appreciate it, man. Kyle Cable knocked this thing out of the park. Chad, he did such a great job establishing a lot of momentum before we actually hit the market. We did hit the market. Within, like I mentioned, 2 days, we had this bad boy sold. So if you're in the market to buy or sell a home, if you have investment needs, which don't have any particular time of year attached to them, you need to reach out to the official real estate agent of the program. Again, Kyle Cable, One Trust Real Estate. Now, my boys over at the Midwest Mortgage Team, Todd Vercruzzi, the Coos, and Mike Garcia, they're going to be one of my next consultations because, Chad, I'm going to probably, be living in La Crosse above the recovery room for the next year or two. We're not exactly sure. But at some point, I need to buy another property. And when I do so, I'm going to get pre-qualified with the boys over at the Midwest Mortgage Team. Again, Todd Vercruzzi and Mike Garcia. One thing I really lamented missing on Friday, Chad, was the pajama party that Todd Vercruzzi had set up, the Big Couz's Pajama Tuesdays party. So you come in a pair of twos to the Big Couz's pajama party, and it was
Where was that?
That was at his house, I think.
Ah.
Yeah.
Okay. What does he have? What's going on there?
Well, I don't know. They were just having a big party. I just had to miss it, unfortunately. It was a sad thing. I had other business to attend to, but I was thinking about you guys. So big weekend, man. Big weekend. I see we've already got Joey Miller checking in. Joey.
Let's go back to that.
Yes. What a great game by Brock Purdy. And don't think that Chad and I aren't going to dig into this whole Brock Purdy situation, because Brock and the 49ers, they beat the shit out of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers yesterday. As a matter of fact, I have dubbed that game Brocking You Like a Hurricane, because it was just such a Brocktacular performance. And Joey and I were also going back and forth, Chad, about this on Friday. And I've got to tell him, James Owens, who follows and checks in with us oftentimes on Twitter, that I was categorically incorrect about the Denver-Kansas City game. Denver did cover the spread. They were 10-point dogs. They covered the spread. The game went well over the total. But if you watched the same first half as I did, it sure didn't seem like Denver was going to do much of anything. They were getting absolutely rickrolled.
Russell Wilson got hurt.
Dude, Russell Wilson got rolled up like Tua, and oh man, I mean, Russell Wilson, he's awful. I wonder, Chad, how much, if any, Russell Wilson's going to play the rest of the season, because after that game, which again, the Broncos did cover, they were also officially eliminated from postseason contention. So you wonder, because now the math says there is no pathway forward, how much the actual Broncos are going to want to see this dude out there on the field for much longer. I bet you not much.
Well, and that's the thing. And I was watching Sports Center, and I think it was one of the Hasselbacks. Like, I always forget which one it was. Doesn't really matter.
Tim Hasselback. Yeah.
Tim Hasselback, which is that his wife on The View, or is it Matt Hasselback's wife on The View?
Okay, I doesn't really matter.
Anyway, he was saying maybe the worst thing that could happen for them would be that Rippon actually looks better than Russell Wilson, because you've got this big contract, and now you got a guy coming back that's able to play, and maybe we shouldn't play him because we want to win football games. So, it's an interesting situation to be in for the Broncos. That one surprised me, and then obviously my Jaguars pick, that surprised me as well. They just outright, they won, which
yes.
I was thinking that it would be a cover situation, and they just won outright. So You know, that's why they play the games, as Chris Berman used to say. It doesn't really matter what it looks like on paper.
Yeah, exactly. Chris Berman also used to say to people behind the camera, what the fuck? Is this your first time in TV ever? What, you can't get the lighting right in here? I'm Chris Berman. You ever see that behind the scenes? It was epic. What a rant. All right, guys and gals, we've got so much to cover. And P12 Foreman, why are we so surprised by Brock Purdy? I'm not the one that's so surprised. This is the rest of the nation that is categorically so shocked about this. As a matter of fact, Chad, I mentioned to you last week, our good buddy Rob Mish, sports author and sports journalist, had been talking about Brock Purdy to us here in La Crosse, Wisconsin, and since his sophomore year with Iowa State, and said, watch out for this kid. And he sure had a great performance. We've got a poll question on our Twitter feed as well as our Facebook group page this morning, Chad. If you were looking at this Packers team today and said we could choose between Brock Purdy and Jordan Love to succeed Aaron Rodgers, who would you rather have to succeed Aaron Charles Rodgers in Green Bay? Brock Purdy or Jordan Love? Take this morning's poll question on our Twitter feed at the Sports Carney, our Facebook group page. 8:30 this morning, Chad, our Green and Gold insider, good buddy of the program, Joe Daguanno, is going to join the show and look into his crystal ball. A little prediction coming from Joe D about these Green Bay Packers. Stick around. We're just getting started. What can I say? The Recovery Room on 7th and Mississippi Street is not only my favorite bar in all of downtown La Crosse, Wisconsin, it's my favorite restaurant in all of downtown La Crosse, Wisconsin. Breakfast served 8 to noon, Saturday and Sundays, daily specials, incredible cocktails, and the best damn wait staff in the entire city. My buddy Matt knows how to treat you right, and that's why when you go to the Recovery Room on 7th and Mississippi, you're always going to have a great time and a great meal with a great cocktail. So if you haven't been in a while, or perhaps you're just regular and you want to stop in again, make it a thing. I'm there every single week. How about you?
Hi, I'm Irene, and I care about you. That's why I started Care Packages by Irene, or CPBI. At CPBI, we have a wide range of care packages, from I care about you but don't get too clingy, to I'm completely obsessed with you and you should probably get a restraining order, and everything in between. Because it's CPBI, if you care, we care.
Visit us online at carepackagesbyirene.org.
Broadcasting live from the Trauma Center Studios, this is the one and only Sports Carnival. Now for the guy who made Stevie wonder if it would be better to be deaf than blind. Here's your host, Dave Carney.
Oh, man, that's hardcore. And hey, listen here. Fuck you, Sir Duke. Stevie Wonder and I are like compatriots, okay? I'm going to sign, seal, and deliver an ass kicking to you. Here's something that I just want to throw out about CPBI, though. Care Packages by Irene. So they have a line of gag gifts as well. And one of my favorite gag gifts this year, and you can send this to your favorite politician, is a gag sample of anthrax. Okay, think about that. CPBI has got all sorts of great gag gifts. There's like gag poop that you can light on fire and put in front of somebody's doorstep, but gag anthrax. Just listen, send it off and see what the response is that you get. I'm not confirming or denying that you won't spend 5 to 10 years in a federal prison, but what a gift from CPBI. That's a hell of a company, Chad. You know, we're really bringing a lot of the nation's fringe businesses to the forefront here, and I'm proud of this.
Yeah, I would not recommend that, what you just recommended. Probably not a good idea.
CPBI is the one that's putting it up here, not
me.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just saying, don't do it.
It's like going to Spencer's Gifts and thinking about something just a little bit darker, right? It's Spencer. Again, CPBI, Care Packages by Irene. All her fault, not my fault. If you're just joining the program this morning, we've got a lot to cover. The Green and Gold Insider, which we love to call Mad Dog of Madison, Joe Daguanno, joins at 8:30. If you want to join the program, send us some comments. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to see them. YouTube. We do it from Facebook. We can get them from Twitch, the Instagram, and I should say the LinkedIn page and the Twitter page, Chad. We can't see comments come in from there. But if you want to reach out on the program here this morning, we'd love to be able to see you and talk to you. We've got a lot of Badger news to cover this morning. The Green Bay Packers were on a bye. The Minnesota Vikings lost to the Detroit Lions yesterday. I see Neil Duda is checking in and said the Vikings look like shit. The Suns lost twice to the Pelicans, but at least the Badgers men's basketball team got a win yesterday. Glass half full, right? You know what? That's a way to look at it, because we've been seeing Detroit surging this season, and we've been talking about this team, and I've been really, really high on Dan Campbell and what kind of system and what kind of just, I don't know, culture that he has been breeding in Detroit. And what we have seen from this Lions team is not a fluky team that wins by luck. This is a team that's really coming out with a solid game plan. Jamal Williams, former Packer, has been nothing short of spectacular for Detroit. I think that Jared Goff, Chad, as limited as Jared Goff is, working within the right system, and we'll talk more about system stuff with Brock Purdy, but working within the right system, he's become fine, and the Detroit defense is starting to pick up. Minnesota looked well over their skis yesterday. It was a good win for the Lions.
Yeah, the key to that win, because if you look at the stats, I didn't see the game. They didn't have it on here, so I wasn't able to watch that game. I ended up watching the Giants game, the Giants and the Eagles, and the Eagles just demolished the Giants.
Took them apart.
It was great, but I think Kirk Cousins had 452 yards passing. So you're like, wow, how did they lose the game? Well, they had 22 yards rushing to 134 yards rushing, and you know that's kind of part of the key there. I think there were some turnovers as well, but a little bit surprised that they won that handily. To me, I thought they were going to cover. I didn't necessarily know they were going to win that handily over the Vikings. It makes this whole division a little bit more interesting as well.
Well, it should, because the Detroit Lions are actually on the outside right now, the very outside looking in of the NFC playoff picture, really the NFC East, which you talked about the Giants and we've got the Commanders. There's the Eagles and the Cowboys. Cowboys barely beating the Texans.
Commanders moved up too, I believe.
They did. They're 7-5-1. The point that I want to make is outside of the NFC East, there are no other wild card playoff teams right now. The NFC East controls all of those wild card spots. However, Detroit is starting to creep up at 6-7. And again, I think that what Dan Campbell's done for Detroit is really important, because this team was so far away from being good that the incremental steps that they took last year, which didn't show up on the record, win-loss, but you could see and feel kind of his coaching, and now translating into this year, a near 500 season, is really, really important for Detroit, because you can only be so bad for so long and then not win again with the new coach before you have to start changing that again, right? So Dan Campbell, I think, is making a really big, important step this year.
The other thing that stood out in that game is I believe Justin Jefferson had 223 yards receiving. He didn't have any touchdowns, but an amazing single day for this wide receiver that has just been impressive for quite a while now. And I think he's in the hunt for MVP, but it looks like right now, I would imagine that's going to go to Jalen Hurts, the way he looked yesterday and in the seasons he's having. But hats off to Justin Jefferson. Unfortunately, Vikings just didn't have enough to win.
Yeah, I would say that the MVP probably is still going to be Pat Mahomes, because he's going to set the single season passing yardage record probably this year. He's going to hit over 5,500. The Chiefs are 10-3. But I see what you mean. Jalen Hurts, he'll be in there. I think the narrative, again, we've talked about this with the NBA. I think the narrative will want to give it to Mahomes again, because the league's just in love with this dude, while there's still doubters on Jalen Hurts pick apart every game. But Jalen probably in there in the top 2, top 3. Joe Burrow's going to get some votes. The Bengals are playing great. Bengals beat the Browns this weekend, which, look, I talked about this game last week with respect to betting against the Browns. Deshaun Watson's not good. And when you don't play for 2 years, right, when you're not on the field for 2 consecutive years, there is no guarantee that you come back to whatever that was form. Think of Le'Veon Bell, guys and gals. Le'Veon Bell said, I want to step away from Pittsburgh. I want the most guaranteed money. I'll get it from the Jets, which he didn't. But when he came back, he was a shadow of himself before, and he never lived up to that contract and never played well again. I think that the Browns are probably in better shape because Watson's, a younger player at a position different than running back, but still, he is not good right now. But Chad, I do want to talk about a quarterback that was really good yesterday. I want to talk about Brock Purdy, because Brock Purdy, Foreman, is not a guy that is absolutely surprising to us that have seen him in Big 12 play at Iowa State for the last 4 years, because the guy was a 4-year starter at Iowa State. And as a matter of fact, I've mentioned this before, our good buddy from Vegas, Rob Mish, was talking about Brock Purdy as one of the premier quarterbacks in college football, because he had the highest yards per attempt average, not touchdowns, interceptions, but yards per attempt, which is really a determiner on how good of a quarterback you are, especially in college. Well, Chad, yesterday, Brock Purdy and these 49ers, they absolutely destroyed, dismantled, and humiliated, I would say, Tom Brady and the Buccaneers, who didn't even look like they wanted to really be on the field in San Francisco. Purdy was an efficient 16 for 21. It wasn't even his numbers. It was the way that Brock Purdy controlled the game, Chad. Now, this was a national game, so I'm curious if you got a chance to see it out there, and if you did, I'd like to get you. Oh, dude.
I did not know they didn't have this game on. They had this, of course, in this area had the Seahawks Carolina Panthers game on, which the Panthers ended up winning, much to the chagrin of Seahawk fans here in the Northwest. But I did see highlights of the game, and obviously a little concerned about Deebo Samuel's high ankle sprain, which I'm glad it's just a high ankle sprain. I thought it looked worse than that, honestly. And the replay that I saw, I was like, uh-oh. But this still may be the rest of the season for him, which really, really sucks. But the highlights I did see, I mean, as you mentioned, ball control and just his presence on the field. He has the guys behind him, and he can run. He's got a great arm. He threw some great passes. I think he did throw a pick, didn't he, or two?
No, he didn't. He didn't throw a pick. 16-21, 185, and two touchdowns, ran for another.
The highlights I saw, I was thoroughly impressed. I think that the 49ers are in good shape. And obviously with all of the talent surrounding him, that helps tremendously. When you're a guy that's coming off the bench, haven't, really ever played in the NFL to any significance, you're Mr. Irrelevant, all of those different things, and you have all of these weapons behind you. That helps tremendously. But, you got to take your hat off to Brock Purdy for stepping up the last 2 weeks and doing what he's done.
Well, he doesn't look like he is afraid of the moment. And I think that when you take thousands of reps in college, when you're a Big 12 starting quarterback for 4 consecutive years, from your freshman season till your senior season, you've played in big spots. The Big 12, I realize it's not the SEC or the Big 10 as far as the money is concerned, but look at some of those stadiums that are in the Big 12. You're talking about Texas. You're talking Nebraska. You're talking 130,000 seat stadiums, right, where people come out and they are raucous. So Brock Purdy's played in big spots. What I've really thought was the most impressive about Brock Purdy, and if you're a 49ers fan, which I know we don't have a ton, but you and P12 Foreman both love the 49ers. If you're a 49er fan, you've got to love everything about Brock Purdy because he's Jimmy Garoppolo with better wheels, right? Like Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't make big-time throws, and Brock Purdy made some throws. I don't know that he has a big-time arm, but he's got enough of an arm with Kyle Shanahan's system to make it work. And then, Chad, the way that he was able to read progressions and instinctively be able to run with his, again, with all of these different weapons out there, run on his own accord and run in for a touchdown. I thought that was really impressive too, because, you could see this kid getting a little bit rattled against a defense in Tampa Bay, which is so dominant, at least on paper. Now, Tampa Bay, I will say this, with their loss dropping them to 6-7 and Tom Brady just looking completely listless and lifeless, the entire team looks like they are checked out. I think that it could be curtains for him. Everybody's predicting that he plays again next year, which he very well might.
He looked bad.
If he looks this bad now, I don't know how. I mean, come on, man. You're 46 coming up on 47 years old. You're not going to look better next year. That's just not going to be the thing. And if you're San Francisco, do you get rid of a guy like Brock Purdy and Trey Lance in order to bring in a Tom Brady? I wouldn't do that at this point.
No. I think that Joey Miller's asking a good question. If Purdy has a great rest of the season, it's Lance's job in jeopardy. I don't know if it's a jeopardy, but I think you have a quarterback competition next year. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Everybody always makes a big deal about that. I think that's the best thing that you can have. When you have guys competing, guys that are qualified competing for the same position, it's only going to make you better. It's not going to make you worse. Yeah, you may have some animosity and stuff, but I think most of these guys nowadays, they get along fairly well. They're hopefully supportive teammates. And if they're not, then you should get them off your team. The other thing that it does is it gives you, trade value, right? You got Jimmy Garoppolo, you got Brock Purdy, you got Trey Lance. It's a good problem to have if you're the front office of the 49ers. It's not necessarily, it may be, not a lot of fun for the coaching staff having to deal with egos, but I even think if you're a coach and you have multiple options like that, why would you not want that?
Well, exactly. And that's what the 49ers have done so expertly, is actually managing these egos, and give credit where credit's due to guys like Jimmy Garoppolo for having little to no egos in the sense that we can see for taking those jobs. Now, Jimmy G's done with the 49ers. He's got a no franchise tag clause in his contract from this year, and there's $0 owed to him next year. So he's gone. They've got no more control over him. Now, I see P12 Foreman's got a note up here. I wish they would trade Trey Lance and keep Brock Purdy. They probably won't do that, but this is also where you come to, realize that playing in college football, especially playing as many games as Brock Purdy does, holds an intrinsic value over somebody in Trey Lance who may have incredible skills and upside, but I think he played 11 football games in college, like 11 football games as a starting quarterback, and he played at a really small school. Not to say that that's a determining factor on not being good, because that's not the case at all. but Brock Purdy is just well more suited to the NFL game right now than Trey Lance is. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. My thought with the 49ers is this: their defense is good enough to carry him, right? Like, they've really got a great defense, but if Deebo Samuel is not playing for them,
that
Brock
hurts.
Purdy's their quarterback, that might not be a recipe for success, Chad.
No, Christian McCaffrey had a great game yesterday. Obviously, they got Ayuk. They've got other weapons. But yeah, that hurts because Samuel is so versatile, and he's one of those guys that makes the opposing defense really have to think and account for and cause problems. Right? You have to constantly know where he is on the field, and that's an issue, and obviously extremely helpful moving into the playoffs. But with a high ankle sprain, I wouldn't think it would be the rest of the regular season, but I wouldn't think that would exclude him necessarily from the playoffs. So we have 4 games left. So we got 4 weeks. I mean, actually sometimes it depends on, I've sprained my ankle and I have broken my leg. And sometimes this ankle sprain is worse in a lot of ways, especially if it's the first sprain, if it's a severe sprain, because all those ligaments and everything, it sucks. And that injury, it looked worse than that. Honestly, I thought that was a break. When I saw the film, it looked like a break to me. So I think we're lucky in that sense if you're a 49er fan. But if he doesn't play the rest of the season, the regular season, I don't think it's as big a deal as if it carries on to the playoffs. Then it becomes a bigger issue.
Yeah, if they're going to get into the playoffs and have any hope of winning multiple playoff games, I think you're going to need as many weapons for a guy like Brock Purdy as possible. But you're right, the high ankle sprain to that point can actually be worse in many cases than the break because you don't have the bone to be reset. You've got all this other tissue and ligament and joint damage. So let me just ask this question, Chad, because I want to talk about some of the other things that we saw over the weekend here in Wisconsin sports before our Green and Gold insider Joe Daguanno comes on board at 8:30. The poll question this morning for audience members on our Twitter feed at the Sports Carney, as well as our Facebook group page, is simply, as a Packer fan, who would you rather have succeed Aaron Rodgers? We've seen Jordan Love a little bit this year, been pretty impressed, but now we've gotten 2 basically full games with Brock Purdy out of the San Francisco 49ers, and this kid's already beaten the Dolphins and Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. So who would you rather have right now? And I know this is a snap judgment. 81-18 on our Twitter feed would rather have Brock Purdy. On our Facebook group page, 44-33 for Brock Purdy over Jordan Love. But Uncle Rico is now getting 23% of the votes, thanks to Kyle Morningwood on our Facebook group page.
I will answer your question like this. I would rather have the Packers keep Jordan Love. I would rather have the 49ers keep Brock Purdy. So yes, I'm going to answer Jordan Love because you're asking from the point of view of the Green Bay Packers.
Yes, I am.
And since I'm a 49er fan, why the hell would I want to give up Brock Purdy for Jordan Love?
Well, all right, that's a fair question. Hey, listen, the 49ers, I don't know how long a 7th rounder's contract is. If they get him for a season or 2 seasons, I'm not sure.
They might stealing this right now. You're thinking about that. Mr. Irrelevant actually winning games against the GOAT, against Miami. He's looking like, the next big thing in San Francisco, and we're paying him league minimum. It's awesome.
Maybe even less than the league minimum. I'm not even sure what the league minimum is for a fucking 7th rounder. Maddie from the recovery room is checking in and saying the 10-3 Vikings have been outscored 313 to 312 this season. Wow. Not a Super Bowl team right now. Listen, the Vikings, and we've talked about this, give them credit for winning close games. But when you see some of the weaknesses on Minnesota's on their football team, like you saw from the Lions yesterday, the exposition of certain parts of their defense, you're right. They can put up points, Maddie, but they can't stop a nosebleed. And that is something that Chad and I talked about with this Lions game on Sunday and why it felt a little tenuous for the Minnesota Vikings to go in there and actually get a win, which they, of course, didn't.
I think this is more about the Lions than it is the Vikings. I mean, the Vikings, they put up some good numbers yesterday outside of their run game. The Lions just have some kind of mojo going on right now. I don't know exactly what it is. And I do believe if I recall correctly, I might've been in a fog, but I remember watching, because I didn't watch the game, but I watched highlights. Did they not do a fake punt and convert? I think the Lions
didn't see the
pulled off a fake punt and converted. Yeah, Dan Campbell's ballsy. He definitely is willing to roll the dice, which is always fun to watch. I saw the same thing in the Eagles game as well. I think it was 4-6. They were on their 41. fourth down and 6, on their 41, and they went for it and they ended up throwing a touchdown. I was just like, wow, that was amazing, because I can't remember who the wide receiver is, but he got past both guys. And the safety, he went after the receiver and not the ball, and he caught it over his shoulder, touchdown on 4th and 6. Some of these coaches nowadays, sometimes I'm cringing because they go too many times on 4th down, but when it happens and it works, it's exciting to watch.
Well, it is. And now you start to look at, these new coaches and the analytics sheets they bring with them, Chad. It's like shooting 3-pointers in the NBA. If the numbers are basically the same, if you're going to punt or go for it on 4th down, or if you've got a better possibility of converting than you do on punting, you say, fuck it, and sort of roll the dice. Before we bring Joe Daguanno aboard at 8:30 this morning, Chad, let's pop up that weekend recap we had here for Wisconsin sports fans, because there was a lot going on. I know that we've only got an hour, so we focus heavy on NFL football this time of year, but Kyle Morningwood had checked in, and we had another one of our audience members talking about the Wisconsin Badgers men's basketball team, so we'll start there. Tyler Wall, he came up huge yesterday for the Badgers against Iowa, 78-75 in overtime. This Iowa team is no joke. I mean, they really aren't. They play some really good basketball. They're well coached. But Wisconsin's flair for the dramatic this season, Chad, especially against better opponents, has been nothing short of spectacular. They've been a really entertaining watch. And for a team that I did not think was going to be very good without Johnny Davis, they are once again surprising me. Big Guard is a good basketball coach. And it doesn't feel, Chad, there was a narrative here in Wisconsin a couple of years ago that Greg Gard had lost the team because of a number of different, news stories that were starting to break. It does not feel like that is anywhere close to being true. Bad news for the Badger volleyball fans, though. In Pittsburgh, the Panthers, they stopped the title defense of Wisconsin. And for those that were watching this Wisconsin team last week, I know at the recovery room, sorry, guys, this was one of those teams that you really hoped for. I know that Kyle Wood right now this morning is probably in a bit of a funk, because we know how much he enjoyed this Wisconsin volleyball team, and he also liked to see them play volleyball.
Yeah, I think he was more interested in what was going on in the locker room than he was the volleyball game. But you know what? They had a great season, though, right?
They did. They lost in the, I want to say it was the semifinals were last week, whatever that would be, almost like the Elite Eight, right? Like they would have lost in like the Elite Eight, or maybe it was the Final Four. I don't know. I didn't watch it, but it was
a good run. It was a good run. You can't win them all. I did watch a little bit of that Wisconsin-Iowa game. When I was watching, Iowa was throwing up a lot of bricks, and Wall was ripping down rebounds left and right. So congrats to Wisconsin pulling off that win. Because like you said, I mean, as far as record goes, and Iowa has a solid team, that's a solid win for the Badgers.
It really is. And Wisconsin's, they've piled up some solid wins this season, like I've mentioned, against good teams. I mean, beating the likes of Maryland and Iowa, and then, a really close call against Kansas on Thanksgiving, and then beating, a team in USC that's got a lot of talent as well. So congratulations to Wisconsin men's, and really sorry for those lady volleyball stars. We were obviously all pulling for you, Chad. One final thing to make a mention of: on Friday night, the Milwaukee Bucks got a really exciting win, 106-105 over Luka and the Mavs in Dallas. Another indicator that Giannis is better than Luka still right now, okay? Because when it came time for the Bucks to step up, that's exactly what Giannis did. And boy, Luka just wasn't able to get him over the hump. But yesterday, also in Texas, the Bucks lost to the Rockets, 97-92. Jalen Green was amazing for Houston last night. The thing that was the most concerning to me, however, and it feels like he's going to be okay from multiple reports, was watching Chris Middleton leave in the first quarter. So Middleton suffered an ankle injury, and it was clear right away he was not going to come back. Not great, because Middleton, of course, just coming back off of that injury is such an important part of this Bucks team. But that was the most concerning thing for me. The Bucks losing to the Rockets, okay, not awesome, but still in all, looking at Chris Middleton have to leave the game, that sucked. But like I've mentioned, from most of the reports that I've been able to see so far, guys, it doesn't feel like this is going to be a long-term injury for Chris Middleton. He should be able to bounce back pretty good. When we come back, the Mad Dog of Madison himself, the Green and Gold Insider you all know and love, Joe Daguanno, is going to be here. Joe Daguanno is going to be wearing we're going to call it his fake Swami hat, because he wants to give us a prediction of the Green Bay Packers in the coming weeks and months ahead. Stick around. Sports Carnival back in about 60 seconds. Now more than ever, if you're looking to buy or sell your first home or perhaps an investment property, you need a full-time dedicated real estate agent who is up to date on all the latest trends and analysis and is ready to give you the kind of service that you deserve. That's why the official real estate agent and the official real estate partner of the Sports Carnival is Kyle Cable of OneTrust Real Estate. Whether you're looking to buy or sell your first home or perhaps you are a seasoned investor, call the official real estate agent partner of the Sports Carnival, Kyle Cable of OneTrust Real Estate.
The official mortgage team of the Sports Carnival is the Midwest mortgage team of Land Home Financial, my good buddies Mike Garcia and Todd Vercruzzi. Listen, we all know the mortgage industry is in a bit of an upheaval right now, and that's why it's more important than ever to go to a couple of guys that you can trust, a local operation right here in La Crosse. That is the Midwest mortgage team. Again, Michael Garcia and Todd Vercruzzi of Land Home Financial. Don't make a mistake with your mortgage needs. Go to the official mortgage provider of the Sports Carnival, the Midwest mortgage team, Mike Garcia and Todd Vercruzzi.
Back to the Sports Carnival, broadcasting live from the Trauma Center studios. Remember, everyone has a hidden talent they don't know about until they drink tequila. Now here's your host, Dave Carney.
Oh, bad tequila. Naughty tequila. But, you know, in vino veritas, right? In wine, there's truth. In tequila, there is, I would say in tequila,
anger.
There's probably, anger and also prophecy from time to time. Joe Daguanno, our Green and Gold insider, the Mad Dog of Madison, is joining the program here on the Sports Carnival. Joe, we've got a big promotion coming up. It doesn't have to do with tequila, but our friends over at Alaskan Brewing Company, as well as New Glarus and Blue Moon, are encouraging the audience members of the Sports Carnival to make their way to the recovery room tonight, bingo at 7, and drink up, because for every beer that you get that's a New Glarus, Blue Moon, or an Alaskan, you're in the running for one of a number of great prizes, including a 43-inch smart TV, a whole bunch of other games, and a 162-centimeter snowboard. Joe, I was reading these notes incorrectly last week, and I said 162-inch snowboard, of which I was mocked and ridiculed openly for, and should have been, because that's the size of a large canoe. That's also the size of an 8-person toboggan, something that we saw maybe briefly in Cool Runnings, but other than that, not many places. So with that said, Joe, if you get a chance to come to La Crosse anytime soon, I'll buy you a beer and we'll get you into the running. You can win. I can't win.
Well, there we go, man. And I'm hoping to get up to UWL. I'm actually driving to Minnesota this week. Young Charlie has a couple of visits with a couple of D2 schools in Minnesota. So, but
nice.
UWL still very much in the running as well. So I want to get up there very quickly. But, you know, real quick, boys, first of all, do you like the ghosts of Hallis and Lombardi over my shoulder there? That is, you know, it is just a beautiful thing. I have a lot of respect for the Bears. A lot of respect. Without George Hallis, there are no Green Bay Packers, in my opinion. But here's one quick question before we tackle the Swami and what I see Packer prediction-wise. On an average week, boys, we were talking about this week. On an average week, how many drinks do you have?
Oh, God. Chad, go ahead. You start.
Honestly, I don't really drink that much, so I would say 1.
Okay. Dave?
Okay. This is going to sound bad, and I'm going to start getting people in from like Driftless Recovery. I would say on an average week, Joe, if I'm going to be real about it, probably about 25 drinks.
Yep. Well, here's the thing, real quick, and you are about where the group of people I hang out with were talking this weekend. And here's the thing. My doctor asked me how many drinks, and I said, 21 to 25 a week. And then she said, how many drinks of caffeine? Oh. And I said, about the same. And she said, I am more worried about your caffeine intake.
Is that right?
Yep. Than I am about your drinking, your wine and booze and everything else. So there you go, man. We not only talk Green Bay Packer football, but here's to your health with Dr. Chad, Dr. David, and Dr. Joe this morning.
So I'm probably 15. If you're doing caffeine, I'm about 3 cups a day.
Okay.
I don't really drink a lot on the weekend, coffee on the weekend, but at work, it's like it's free.
Yep.
And, I'm at work, so I got to stay awake.
Yeah, totally with you. Yeah. She was more concerned about my caffeine intake than my cocktailing. So there you go.
this is interesting for me because I look at it all and I'm saying, oh, this is just when I write it down or hear you reflect it back, it just doesn't sound good. And seeing Chad's surprised looking face, I'm like, okay, this is
no. I used to be far worse than that. Believe
this
me,
is definitely a lot. But what I found to be the most important part of the health thing, because Joe, you look amazing. We all know that you're an international male model, and I'm not far behind you. Lots of water. Just like lots and lots of water. I mean, douse yourself with hydration as much as possible. Exactly. I mean, that's like my little teeny cousin. This thing here, this is why I've got Bag Moto in my car, because it's the only thing that'll hold the fucker. If you douse yourself with a lot of water, you can probably mitigate some of it. But thank you, Joe, because this health moment has been brought to you by our futurist in Packers, in Packers land, Joe Daguanno. Joe, let's go to your Swami predictions, because this morning on our Twitter feed at the Sports Carnival, you kind of teased us with the crystal ball and said, all right, here we're going to start to break out some predictions for Green Bay Packer football in weeks and months. Oh, did we lose?
Whoa. Everybody got lost. What happened here? That is not good. Well, I'm all by myself. That's no fun. Here we go. Joe's back. All right, let's bring Joe back. Joe's back. Dave's back. There we go.
Wow.
I was all by myself there for a second, and I was like, now what do I do?
Like that, right, guys? Well, this is part of the world of the internet here. So, Joe, I was just simply asking you to put on that prediction hat and tell us, what do you see coming down the pike here for Green Bay?
Well, it was a bye week, and we heard from Brian Gutekunst last week. And if you read between the lines, Goody at one point, said, we'll reevaluate the Rodgers situation in the offseason. But then in one of the next sentences, he said, well, we made a commitment to Aaron, and that certainly wasn't just for one season. And then you hear Jason Wilde come out and talk about that, in his estimation, his conversations with Jordan Love basically intimate that Love's kind of going to be feeling the same way Rodgers was in his fourth year, that he really doesn't want to be riding the bench his fourth year in the NFL. And then Pete Doherty this morning, I thought, did an excellent job writing about how Christian Watson has maybe changed the whole outlook of the Green Bay Packers' future. And so when you read between the tea leaves of Goody, and you hear Wilde's reports about his conversation with Love, and then Pete Doherty comes out and says that, this has really kind of rejuvenated the franchise. Then you look too at the contract situation of this Packer team next year. And I got to tell you guys, they have 38 players under contract, one tight end, a couple of safeties. And so there's a couple of position groups that you really look at and say, okay, this Green Bay Packer team needs to focus on a tight end and safety and et cetera, et cetera. I think what happens because of Christian Watson's emergence, I think Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback of the Green Bay Packers in 2023. I think Aaron Jones gets a contract restructure because his number balloons to, I believe, $16 million next year. And so I see Green Bay doing something with Jordan Love this offseason and dealing him somewhere. And again, when you have a bye week and you have Gutekunst on the mic and you have all these other things that you start looking at and you start peeling back the onion. And I thought, and Packer fans, if you get a chance, look at Pete Doherty's article on the Green Bay Press-Gazette today, because it really talks about what Christian Watson, the emergence of him and what the comparisons to James Lofton were the comparisons that were in that article and what Lofton could do back in the 80s for the Green Bay Packers. So my prediction is very simple. Aaron Jones gets the restructure. Aaron Rodgers, like it or not, Packer fans, is your Packers starting quarterback in 2023. And Jordan Love gets shipped somewhere this offseason. And so that is where I'm going with it. And I think, again, it's real interesting when you look at 4 or 5 weeks ago, the future of this franchise, I think, was tenuous at best. And by the way, Joe Barry will be gone this offseason. That's my other prediction. But when you look at where this franchise was looking a few weeks ago, and then you look at what one potentially dynamic player in Christian Watson can do for the energy of a franchise. I think it shifts the focus, but I think Jones is going to be there on a restructured deal. Rodgers is going to be your quarterback. Love's going to be gone, and Joe Barry's going to be gone. And
so Joe, who do they get for Love? Are they going to get players, or are they going to get picks? What do you think they're going to?
You know what? I think a combination. It's going to be one of those deals. I don't think they're going to get what they think they could for him, but when you look at the quarterback play in the NFL right now, there are a lot of franchises that are going to need a quarterback. And Jordan Love's sneak peek against the Eagles might have been enough. Look, Matt Flynn got a huge deal for throwing 6 touchdowns in the last game of the year against the Lions. Right. Gets that deal for Seattle. So, you might have seen enough, and you heard some of the Eagle players after the game saying that Jordan Love was balling and et cetera, et cetera. I think right now, fellas, and again, like it or not, I know there are Packer fans. It's a love-hate thing with Rodgers. There's no doubt about it, man. Either you love the guy or hate him. There's no in between. And so this isn't going to make half of Packer Nation very happy. It's going to make the other half very happy. But I think Jordan Love gets dealt, and I think it's the same. It was really interesting when Wilde intimated that because you look back, Rodgers didn't want to be riding the bench his 4th year in the NFL. And you have Jordan Love next year coming into his 4th year in the NFL. So I think there's going to be a divorce between the Green Bay Packers and Jordan Love. Not sure what they're going to get for him, but I think he's going to be dealt.
If the Packers move on from Love, which I think that you're probably right, they're going to have to do that because Aaron Rodgers is just by virtue of the contract that he has is going to be the Packers starting quarterback next year, no doubt about it. And you just can't afford these two guys. I just don't know that there's much of a market because I'm looking at the entire landscape. Jacksonville's found theirs. They've got Lawrence. The Texans are going to draft somebody with the 1st overall pick. You've got the Seattle Seahawks who look like they've got 2 guys in Geno Smith. And then you've got, the other kid that they traded for Denver. They'll have Denver's pick, which should be 3. Whatever that market is, it probably won't be big. But if the Packers can get back a 3rd or a 4th round pick for Jordan Love at this point, good enough. I mean, really good enough. And then see whatever you can do with those picks. Something that I've thought about here, Joe, and we've kicked the can around the Joe Barry situation. Defensive coordinator has just been really kind of a miss for Packers, even with Mike Pettin. It was, always kind of a shaky area. Actually not Mike Vrabel, but Frank Reich is going to be somebody that's going to be out there. And I know that Frank Reich is an offensive guy for the most part, but I would take a look at bringing a Frank Reich to this team and seeing if he doesn't get another job as an associate coach. We were talking about that last week. Somebody who could help bring a level of, I don't know if I should say this, but machismo into the locker room of the Green Bay Packers and into those meeting rooms and really give Matt LaFleur somebody else, the Wade Phillips to Sean McVay, the guy that's been in the NFL that gets the respect of the players enough so that this Green Bay team can really, really figure out what they are because the Christian Watson situation, the fact that this is washing over Packer fans like this is new fucking news. This dude burned on his very first play of the season, burned the Minnesota defenders and was ready. He didn't catch the ball, but they stopped going to him. That's a coaching issue. That's a coaching problem. Yeah. That's Matt LaFleur's fault. He should have kept going back to that well because when you see what the guy did, it's the same thing he's doing now. He just didn't catch it. He was nervous. It is what it is. It was his first play. So I want to see somebody come into the Green Bay team, work with LaFleur, who I think has got a lot of potential and upside, but he doesn't seem like the dog that McVay or Shanahan or a lot of these guys are that's able to get the best out of these players. We've seen him coattail ride a really soft schedule with a really hot Aaron Rodgers for the last 3 seasons, and now we're looking at it and saying, okay, the emperor might have no clothes, meaning you got a contract extension with him, bring somebody else in. I don't know that Vrabel's the guy because I don't know Frank Reich is the guy. But there's somebody out there I think that Green Bay should really look at. Maybe it's a Brian Flores. I don't know. To say, help us out and be sort of that counterpunch to whatever Matt LaFleur's lighter side might be.
Yeah, you go back to the Jets game, Robert Saleh after the game. Saleh basically said, he felt, and I'm paraphrasing, the more you punch this team in the mouth, the more they're going to fucking lay down. And so, and I think you're onto something with Matt LaFleur's personality. And I'm not ripping on the guy. I think there is something there, but I agree with you. I think you bring in a Brian Flores to run this defense. Jimmy Leonard's not the answer, guys. He's not.
No.
And so Brian Flores, you bring him in to run the defense. Then I agree. You bring in an offensive guy, and again, Tom Clements, good guy, but he's behind the scenes. He's not the guy that's going to be the guy that players run through a fucking wall through and force. And so yeah, I think you bring in. There you go. I love it. Foreman just said get Bruce Arians from Arizona because
he's with Tampa Bay still,
or Tampa Bay. Yeah. So, but that's a guy that I would love, and he probably hates it there now because Tom Brady basically said, "You go upstairs. I don't want you as coach anymore. You go upstairs and you can drink your scotch and with your hat up there and But yeah, I'd love a guy like that. And so, and by the way, here's the other thing. Don't be surprised if Tom Brady and Sean Payton come back and make New Orleans a thing next year. Just don't be surprised about that because
come on,
Payton and Brady, they were trying to do the Miami Dolphin thing. Hey, if I'm wearing the Swami fucking hat today, I'm going to go balls to the wall.
They're in hell, Joe. They're in worse shape. The Saints are in worse shape than the Green Bay Packers are. That's why Sean Payton retired, because they're eating that Drew Brees dead money for like the next 5 years.
Oh, totally. No, I'm with you. But you're going to see that Peyton Brady thing come up somewhere. I just think you will. But and again, the other prediction I make, and I've said this for a while, Green Bay's not a playoff team. I mean, all weekend long, I've been seeing. So you're saying there's a chance, and you're saying there's a chance, and Jim Mora, please, where are you? Playoffs? I mean, this team is not a playoff team. Please, Packer fans, stop the insanity.
Joe, the most obvious indicator of that was yesterday when the Lions beat the Vikings. Every win that Detroit racks up is another loss for the Green Bay Packers. Buddy, we're up against it. Thank you for playing along with the day, wearing your Swami hat. As always, it's great to see you. International male model, green and gold insider, Mad Dog of Madison, Joe Daguanno. Love you, buddy. We'll talk to you soon.
See you, boys.
Preferred Insurance is the official auto, home, business, flood, and life insurance agency of the Sports Carnival, serving folks in La Crosse and surrounding areas with licenses in Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Iowa. As an independent insurance agency, Preferred Insurance is free to find the very best insurance for you, your family, or your business needs. Call my friends at Preferred Insurance today and set up a free consultation. Remember, working with an independent agency means Preferred Insurance works for you, with you, to find the best solutions at the best prices.
At the Little Doobie's Pizza, we kill 2 stone birds with 1 rock every time with our hand-rolled Doobie Deluxe for only $49.95. That's a street value of over $75. No way! The Doobie Deluxe is a hand-rolled 18-inch pizza that will blow your bone-resonant mind. Whoa! Topped with the sausage, black olives, extra cheese, and about a half ounce of the finest kush at east side of San Bernardino.
Dude, give me another slice.
Because at Little Doobie's Pizza, we put a little TLC in our THC.
And right now, for a limited time only, get an order of crazy cannabis bread for only $10 with an order of a Doobie Deluxe at the street value of over $22.50.
You know what we say at the Little Doobie's Pizza? Why get stoned then eat when you can do both at the same time?
Doobies.
Back to the action live from the Trauma Center studios. This is the Sports Carnival. This from Mark Twain, who once said, if you ever find yourself on the side of the majority, it's time to pause and reflect. Now here's your host, Dave Carney.
Well, got to say, that was a smart individual. It makes me want to go back and read more Mark Twain books right now. As a matter of fact, I think I'm going to do that. This week, I'm going to go to the library in La Crosse, and I'm going to get myself a piece of work by Mr. Mark Twain or Samuel Clemens. I like this.
Yeah.
Joey Miller's checking in with us here, Chad, and asking us about tonight's Monday Night Football game. Why are the Cardinals underdogs tonight? You know what? This is a good question because the New England Patriots, Chad, have been playing some non-stellar looking football, but they are 23-5 against their spread in the last 28 games after just getting less than 250 yards. So basically, this is a Bill Belichick coaching play. The Patriots are also 12-2 against the spread in their last 14 games following a double-digit loss at home. So I think those are a couple of the reasons, Joey, that Vegas has got this game going the way that it does, which still is New England minus. Let me check BetUS because I think we're still at New England minus a point. So it's moved from New England -2 now down to New England -1. and you're getting minus 125 on the money line for New England. This thing's very close. It's close to a pick 'em. But I think, Chad, that when we look at the coaching of Bill Belichick, that's one of the reasons why, Joey, that you're seeing this game be at least capped the way that it is, handicapped the way that it is. And I'm glad that you're bringing up this next banner, because if you're interested in sports betting, of course, never do more than you can take. But BetUS is now the official sports betting platform, online sports betting platform of the Sports Carnival. Go online and you see the website right there. Enter the promo code Carnival. When you're signing up, you'll see this little join now box. You click that box, you fill out a couple of pieces of information. When they ask you where you heard about it from, you just say Carnival. Now, when you make your first deposit, guys and gals, you'll be prompted to enter another promo code. That's where you enter Carnival. Same one you see there, to get a 125% deposit match in sportsbook play up to $2,500. So simple math, you put in 100, you get a free 125 extra dollars. So you put in 100, you'll see your balance is $100 in cash and $125 in free play money. Now, go ahead and use that free play money tonight to start making your wagers, okay? Make that free play tonight and bet on the Cardinals, or bet on the Patriots, or perhaps take the under, Chad, which is a play that I'm looking at a little bit more. And you can look at this game and see some trends here. The Patriots are 4-0 going under in their last 4 games following a bye week. The under 7-1, Chad, in the Patriots' last 8 December games. And the under is also 5-1 in the Patriots' last 6 games following and against the spread loss. And that's what they had. And this has got to be a reason. All this information, all these stats in our official partnership with BetUS, Chad, this has got to be the reason that coming up on Thursday, starting Thursday with John Papadopoulos on ESPN 105.5, I'm going to be representing both of us as the Sports Carnival, as the sports betting insider for ESPN 105.5. And we nailed our first bet that we actually promoted last week on ESPN. We took the Jets and Bills going under 43.5, and they obviously went well under that final score, 20-12. We also took a look at the Jets, Chad, and said, if you wanted to make a play on the Jets plus the points, you probably should do that, because it was the Jets plus 10 points. And we talked a lot about that. They, of course, did cover that spread, not by a ton, but what a shitty weather game. I mean, snow, sideways rain.
Well,
it was wild up there in Buffalo.
I actually was kind of being the contrarian, was going to take the over on that, but I did like the Jets plus the 10 points. So we kind of split on that, but you obviously went with your gut, and you were correct. Most, I think, with the exception of the Eagles-Giants game, I think most of them were unders yesterday. There wasn't a lot of overs, because I liked the Seahawks in the over too, looking at trends and all of that, and it didn't pay off. And obviously there was weather in quite a few games, so I'm sure that was a factor. But I'm always a little bit torn on the over-under, because I don't like to root for a low-scoring game, because that's generally boring. So sometimes my heart will bet instead of my head, and I'll bet the over, because I'm betting, because I want to watch. If I'm going to watch the game, I'm like, I don't want to watch a shit game. I want to watch something that's high scoring. That's why they change all the rules in every sport in benefit to the offense. Think about every rule change they make, generally speaking, benefits the offense, because people like me want to consume scoring. That's why you're watching. That's why I don't watch soccer, because it's too boring.
I was going to say soccer hasn't picked up that hint yet and opened up that goal. If they expanded the goal like to twice its size right now, and maybe use 2 goalies, even like do something interesting. But if you had a much bigger goalie or goal area, I guarantee you a lot more fan interest.
Or make the ball smaller. Make a smaller ball.
More like a bocce ball or something.
Yeah, like duck pin bowling, like little tiny ball. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I don't know about that. That would be even tougher. Then we'd really have a hard time seeing these guys kick this ball around. Rob Dogg's checking in and said, my week 15 picks are Eagles destroy the Bears. Easy to see that happening. Lions beat the Jets. I like that one.
But I like Lions momentum.
I do too. Packers beat the Rams, and Seahawks beat the 49ers. The Seahawks will not beat the 49ers. That's not.
I disagree on both of those.
The Packers beating the Rams, I think so, but it's right now the money on Green Bay is a little bit heavy. Green Bay currently at BetUS is 8-point favorites. So the lines just came out this morning this morning for this weekend's upcoming slate of games, which include Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday. We've got Monday Night Football. We got Thursday Night Football. There'll be Saturday games and Sunday games this week coming up as well. So the slate is out there. I think that you're probably right. I think if you're just looking at it as a straight bet on the money line, The Bears losing to the Eagles. Yep. Lions beating the Jets. Yep. Packers. I do not like the Seahawks beating the 49ers.
I don't like, unfortunately. I think that I was probably on the Packers beating the Rams until last Thursday and Baker Mayfield's debut. Now, granted, maybe that was a one-off. I don't know. And they did beat the Raiders, so it's not like anything to brag about. But when I'm looking at the remaining schedule for the Green Bay Packers, looking at how many wins can they get out of these last 4 games, it's the Rams, then they're at Miami, they play Minnesota and Detroit. That was the one I thought would be a win, would be the Rams, and now I'm kind of scratching my head after last Thursday thinking, I don't know. I don't know if they beat the Dolphins. I don't think they can beat the way the Lions are playing. I don't think they'll beat the Lions. The Vikings game will be interesting. I mean, I think they win maybe two at best, but more likely one win out of the 4.
The Dolphins, though, are starting to fall apart. We're starting to see Tua return to the mean. Tua had a horrible game against the Chargers yesterday. First half, he was only completing 20% of his throws. I don't know. The Packers might be able to eke out a couple of more, especially if Minnesota packs it in at the end. I want to hit Joey, or maybe it was Rob Dog. I'm looking at a different screen right now, asking about Kyler Murray over under passing yards. At BetUS, the prop tonight is over or under 237.5. And I think he was looking at 230. That's a low one. We're getting 237.5. The under 237.5, Chad, is minus 130. So you'd have to put $130 down to win $100. Over 237 is coming in at even money right now. Bet $1, win $1. I would probably go, because we're looking at BetUS, I would probably go under 237.5 on the passing yards tonight. The Patriots play some really good defense. Their offense has been dog shit, but the Patriots play some really good defense for the most part. I think that they're going to give Kyler Murray some fits, because Kyler Murray is one of those quarterbacks that Bill Belichick loves to play against. Smaller, diminutive, likes to run. Bill loves to be able to box these guys in with spies and rush 3, do a whole bunch of interesting things. I think Kyler will have some issues. I would go under 237. I don't know if I would go under 230, though. That feels a little low. I might go over 230, but just by a little bit. Right?
I would take the under on if he's 6 feet tall, though. I would definitely take the under on that.
Absolutely. He's way under 6 feet tall. That guy is.
Don't take the over on his height.
No. Good Lord. Don't take the over on his heights. No, definitely not. Let's see. Do we have any other betting questions? No, I think we got pretty much most of those handled. Again, really excited that this upcoming Thursday, I'll be joining John Papadopoulos for the first of a weekly segment, and we'll do this thing year-round about sports betting here in the Cooley region, with a focus, of course, on Packers and Badgers, Brewers, Bucks when in season. But we're going to be able to talk a lot of NFL football again coming up this week, a real interesting slate of games. In December football, Chad, I know you might not root for it, but December football, man, you start looking at these unders a lot more and saying, if it's outside.
You know where I'm coming from on that, though. Sure. I mean, and again, that's why I try to stay away from making those plays, because I will make an emotional bet. I will bet the interest of a good game as opposed to, okay, what's logical here?
Sure.
And I did that over this weekend. So I'm much better just working with straight up spreads and forget about over-unders. Although sometimes that's the only play you have. And last week was one of those instances where there was more of those, and that's why I was trying to make more of those over-under predictions. And again, as usual, actually just whatever I tell you, when it comes to over-under, take the opposite. It'll probably be all right. Because every one of them, I took the over, and I do it every time. I'm like, no, I'm going to bet the over. I'd bet the over on that. I was wrong.
That's why we play the game. We do it to have fun, and also because it's always a learning. It's always a learning experience. Tonight, the over-under is currently still set at 43. It looks like we've got 43 across the board here. I'm probably going to take the under on this play tonight, but you're going to have to follow me on social media at the Sports Carney and find out later, because I'll make my daily play a public thing. Chad, before we get out of here, just wanting to say thanks again to our good friends of the program, Kyle Cable, One Trust Real Estate. Kyle was able to sell my house over asking price in just 2 days on the market. Kyle, I thank you forever, man. And this is just the start of a really beautiful long-term real estate relationship. The recovery room. We saw Maddie checking in earlier today, which powers our Trauma Center studios. Bingo tonight, guys and gals. 7 o'clock, you get an Alaskan, a new Glarus, or a Blue Moon, and you get yourself into the running for our Christmas giveaway, which does include the possibility of winning a 43-inch flat screen TV, to Tony Rausa and Brian Sandmeyer over at Preferred Insurance. Guys, the official insurance provider of the program. Thank you so much. Todd Vercruzzi, the Coos, Mike Garcia, Midwest Mortgage Team, Joe's Helping Hands Landscaping, and, of course, the O'Neill Law Firm. Love you, fellas. We'll see you bright and early in the morning for a Tuesday edition of the Sports Carnival.